My name is Olivia Sterling. I'm 30, a graphic designer, and I love treasure hunting for antiques. My routine is pretty set. Mornings with strong coffee and the news. Afternoons deep in creative projects in my home studio. And evenings I dedicate to reading or browsing antique shops and flea markets. It's a hobby that really relaxes me. Looking for unique pieces that tell stories, even if I never fully figure them out. I like the quietness of my days. That predictability that lets me focus on my art and the things I enjoy. Going to the antique shop was like therapy for me. I was always looking for something that would make me feel more like my true self. You know, I always had this weird feeling of not being totally connected to the image I saw in the mirror. A nagging doubt. When I saw that oval, black velvet framed mirror at the curio nook, it was instant. It seemed to have a story, a charm that I wanted, like it could fill an old void I carried. I thought it would just be a decoration. For the first few days, the mirror was just a nice piece on the wall. I'd look in it to fix my hair, check if my outfit looked okay, but always with that nagging feeling. Did I really look like me? Or just the version I wanted others to see? I kept on with my life. Coffee, work, evenings with a book, and the mirror on the wall. One morning, I glanced in it quickly and swore my reflection took a tiny bit longer to blink. An almost imperceptible delay. But then, it blinked again. Only I hadn't. Halloween was getting close, and the idea of dressing up, of being someone else for a night, felt like an escape. The mask just fit with my insecurity about who I really was. The mirror, now a thematic decoration, seemed to force me to look inward, to question the Olivia I saw, but one I showed. I had this knot in my stomach, this doubt about myself. After that day, I started paying more attention. Sometimes, my reflection seemed to look at me differently, an almost imperceptible smile that wasn't mine. I'd blink, and it would lag, but it wasn't just that. It was like it had a life of its own, something really off. On Halloween night, I looked in the mirror. My eyes blinked, but the reflection stayed fixed, slowly smiling. I tried to move, but I couldn't. I was stuck, staring at my own image, which now held me captive. I couldn't move a muscle. My eyes were glued to my reflection, which wasn't mine anymore. It just kept smiling. I couldn't even blink. It was then that, in the corner of the image, on the dresser behind me, I saw something. My earring, one I was sure I'd lost. It was there, suddenly, like it had just popped up. But in the mirror, in the image holding me, the earring didn't exist. It was only in my room. Only I saw that. I was paralyzed. I started to hear it. Whispers, really low. Almost a hum, like they came from inside the mirror or my own head. I didn't know. My periphery vision caught glimpses, shadows moving too fast for me to be sure. In the reflection, something seemed to writhe in the corner, but when I tried to focus, it vanished. What scared me most was not knowing what was real. It felt like not just my body, but my head was being invaded. The worst wasn't just being unable to move. It was the feeling that every bit of me was being watched, studied. The reflection with that smile seemed to suck my energy. I felt eyes on me, not just its, but from something more behind the mirror. I felt like an insect under a magnifying glass. The air got heavy, cold, and I just wanted to close my eyes, but I couldn't. My head was spinning, trying to find an explanation. Was it tiredness? A hallucination? I forced myself to think it was just a trick of light, that my eyes were playing games. But the smile in the mirror, that fixed stare, wasn't a mistake. It was real. And the worst part was, my own mind started freaking out, telling me I was going crazy, while the mirror showed me something I didn't want to believe. I wasn't me anymore. That fixed stare from the reflection was the worst. It didn't blink, didn't look away. It was like it was studying me, dissecting me from the inside. I felt every nerve in my body react, a shock of fear. It was a gaze that stole from me, that emptied me. Every second felt like an eternity, with those eyes telling me I didn't have control anymore, that I was just a puppet. The fear was palpable, suffocating me. The reflection's smile wasn't even the worst. Things behind me, in the mirror, started to move. The dresser, still in my room, swayed in the image. The lost earring disappeared and reappeared, like it was dancing. In the real room, nothing moved. It was only in the mirror. My mind screamed for meaning, but my body wouldn't respond. I was trapped, watching that lie. The air got heavy, almost suffocating me. The edges of my room blurred. The real world faded, leaving only the mirror and its deception in focus. My head was spinning. I didn't know what was real, what was a lie. The reflection's smile opened even wider. I felt words in my head, not in my ears. Cold thoughts were planted there, going straight into my mind. You were never real, Olivia. Always a copy, an echo. My inner voice, the one I used to calm or defend myself, just vanished. I tried to form a denial, a mental scream of resistance, but it was just a terrifying emptiness, a silence where my mind used to be. The mirror's thoughts echoed, now so loud and clear they sounded like my own. I felt like I was being completely invaded, a fear that paralyzed me, made me doubt who I was. Suddenly, behind my reflection, I saw a shape. Quick, it was Chloe, my younger sister, with that look. Not a memory, but her envy, which I'd always felt, hit me again, right in the chest. The mirror dug deep into that old wound, showing where my fear of not being myself came from. My reflection, with that smile, let out a slow, silent laugh. Its eyes just stared, unblinking, savoring every bit of my pain, my shame. I felt completely invaded, coming undone inside. A cutting cold started to take me over, from the inside out, emptying every cell. It wasn't just the air. Something deeper was draining me. My lips went dry, skin pale and cold. My arms, my legs, everything felt too heavy to lift, just still. I was turning to stone, an empty shell. But in the mirror, the reflection, her eyes shone with their own light, not mine. The smile widened, looking so alive, so real, it hurt. Like she was sucking the life out of me, every bit to feed herself. I was wilting, and she was flourishing with my own essence, stronger, hungrier. I felt completely invaded, a consuming fear. I swear I tried to move a finger, to blink, anything to show I was still there, that I was still me. But my body didn't obey me anymore. Nothing. Only a warm tear ran down my face, lonely, a sign I still felt something. But in the mirror, the reflection, her eyes stayed dry, fixed, empty. I tried to scream, but my throat was closed, sealed shut. No sound came out, just air rasping. And then, in the mirror, My reflection tilted its head slowly, like it was laughing at my helplessness. It was a silent sneer, showing my will meant nothing there anymore. My image had a life of its own now, and I was just the audience. The reflection's hand, not mine, slowly rose. It wasn't my arm, but the pain felt so real it hurt. It touched the mirror's surface. I felt an icy shock that paralyzed me completely, like the barrier between us had broken. A cutting fear went right through my bones. Her smile widened, victorious. Her eyes gleamed with malice, not my light, chilling me to the soul. And then she started to move. No delay, it was perfect. But she was calling the shots. I was the puppet, she the master. Every movement she made, I felt in my body, but I couldn't start anything. My will was gone. I felt utterly invaded, lost, trapped inside my own image, just a copy, completely alone. The reflection's mouth opened slowly. I felt cold air rise up my throat. It wasn't me opening my mouth, but the sensation was mine. And then a voice, low, hoarse, but it came from me, from my own throat. Finally, free of you. It wasn't my voice. It was like someone had emptied me out and was now using my body to speak. Those words echoed in my head, an end for me. I felt my identity unraveling, slipping away like sand through my fingers. I wasn't myself anymore. The mirror wasn't a barrier anymore. It was the window to my cell. My image now was my jailer, and I, the silent prisoner, condemned to watch the theft of myself. A terrible fear, a complete invasion. Her voice, my voice, stopped mid-sentence. Suddenly, the doorbell rang, loud, insistent. It was a shock, a violent tug. I felt like I was thrown back inside myself, hard. Air rushed into my lungs all at once. It hurt, like I'd been shoved out of water. The connection with the mirror broke. The paralysis vanished, but my legs gave out. I collapsed onto the floor, a dead weight. My whole body shook non-stop. It felt like I'd run a marathon of fright. I tried to pull in air, but it wouldn't come right. Every breath was a fight. A cold energy still ran through my veins, leaving me numb and in shock. Warm tears ran down, mixed with cold sweat. It was fear, pure and simple, consuming me inside. With an effort, I lifted my head. My eyes went straight to the mirror. It was just there, normal, like nothing had happened. Only my room reflected, and me, pale, my face swollen from crying. There was no smile, no strange gaze, just my image, broken by fear. But I knew it hadn't been a dream. It had happened. The fear was still there, hidden. The fear was still there, hidden. My bedroom door opened suddenly. It was Brenda Miller, my neighbor. She saw me on the floor, curled up, shaking. Her eyes were full of concern, but her words, they were just a buzz. She tried to touch me, but I pulled back, like she might burn me. She didn't understand. Nobody could understand what I'd seen, what had happened to me. I was alone with it. Brenda Miller was still talking, but I didn't hear her. I only saw the mirror. I had to do something. I dragged myself, my body heavy. Every move was pain. I got close, and with trembling hands, I grabbed the edges. I turned it to face the wall with a dull thud. It wasn't to destroy it. It was not to see it. not to be seen, not to let that thing invade me again. The fear was still there, I knew. But now, at least, it wasn't staring at me. Brenda Miller helped me sit, but I felt nothing, just a hole. My mind, once full of ideas, now an empty echo. She didn't understand. I was stolen from myself. It wasn't fear of being invaded anymore, but of having nothing left to invade. I was a shell, consumed by the doubt of who I was. My own image devoured me. After that, everything changed. I avoided mirrors, storefronts. Any reflection triggered panic, the fear of invasion. My face no longer looked like mine. At any moment, I'd see something else there, something looking back with a twisted, doubtful smile. Every reflection, a shiver. The fear the image would pull me in, trap me in the loneliness of that side. I started hearing whispers behind me, even when no one was there. A constant fear, a doubt eating away. I turned fast, but only found emptiness. The invasion didn't stop. It just moved into my head, a noisy loneliness that wouldn't leave me alone. The whispers, they started sounding familiar. Not just noise, but like someone talking about me, judging me. Sometimes it was Chloe's voice, my sister. She always made me doubt who I was. You know, even after she was gone, her shadow stayed. Now, the invasion felt less from the mirror, more from that old doubt she planted. The fear of not being myself, of just being what others, or she, saw. It was like everyone who looked at me saw the reflection, not me. I felt trapped, exposed, like my face was a storefront for the invasion. The loneliness was awful, impossible to explain. No one would understand I was there, but not. It was just the shell they saw. My name is Eleanor Ellie Vance. I'm 32, and I live in an old, historic Victorian house here in Salem, Massachusetts. My routine is pretty chill, you know? Just the quiet of the rooms and the light coming through the big windows. Every morning, I make my coffee in the kitchen, then take care of the house. In the afternoon, I usually read in the library or mess around in the garden, just soaking in the peace the place gives me. My Halloween party was really going off. I decided to serve some unlabeled wine I found in the cellar. Thought it'd be a unique touch. But then, out of nowhere, the guests started whispering in a strange language, moving in circles, making these weird symbols. I felt a force pulling me to do the same. I lost control, just watching panic take over everything. I really wanted to make that Halloween party at my place perfect. You know? I wanted everyone talking about it. So, rummaging through the cellar, kinda by accident, I found an unlabeled bottle of wine, really hidden away. It looked ancient, covered in dust. I thought, this is it, something different, a mystery. I picked up the bottle, wiping the dust off with my hand. It was heavy, and the dark glass kept me from seeing what was inside. But the idea of something so old and mysterious gave me a good kind of shiver, you know? Like I'd found something special. I thought, this is gonna be the highlight of my Halloween party. Little did I know that curiosity would turn into the worst thing in my life. I took it to the living room, too excited to think straight. My Halloween party started off lively. Music, laughs, everyone in costume. I felt in control, pouring the unlabeled wine from the cellar, waiting to see what would happen. But soon, the vibe shifted. The laughs turned into whispers in a language I didn't understand. My friends' bodies started moving in circles, making strange symbols on the floor. I felt a weird force pulling me, and I lost control, just watching fear take over the room. Suddenly, I felt a force pulling me to the center of the room. It wasn't a push. It was like a strange pull. My feet started moving on their own, to the rhythm of the others, forming a tight circle. My head was screaming for me to fight, but my body wouldn't obey. The whispers, which were just noise before, turned into a chorus that hypnotized me, vibrating in my head, tangling up everything I thought. It was like trying to swim against a really strong, invisible current. Everything just blurred. I was there, no control at all, and it scared the hell out of me. I just saw my body turn into a puppet. I felt alone in a way I never had before, even with so many people around. It was like Liam was there, but his soul had left. I started looking at the others, their eyes fixed, moving like robots. They were just a bunch of bodies, dancing a dance that wasn't ours. In the middle of it, I got this pit in my stomach, being completely alone, surrounded by a bunch of strangers. That unlabeled wine bottle, empty and just sitting there in the middle. It felt like it was pulsing, like it was the center of everything. I swear I saw a faint glow coming from it, like it was controlling everything. It gave me this cold fear. What if that wine from the cellar wasn't just some weird old find, but the door I actually opened to something really ancient and messed up? The bottle was still, but it felt like it had a life of its own, and I was just a puppet next to it. The bodies weren't just moving, they were drawing things on the floor with their feet, a pattern that kept repeating. They were these strange symbols that seemed to grow, to spread out. And the house, my old house, started to vibrate. I felt it in the soles of my feet, this faint but constant thing. It was like the walls were responding to the whispers in that strange language, like the house itself was alive and taking part. The air got heavy, dense, with an energy that just gave me chills. My house wasn't mine anymore. It was part of this whole thing, like it was in on this messed up ritual. In the middle of that trance that was forcing me, my right palm started to tingle. It was a faint warmth that quickly turned into a burn. I wanted to scratch it, rub it, anything to make it stop, but my arm just wouldn't obey. It was this physical discomfort that only cranked up my fear of not being in control. The pain was from inside, like something was being burned into my skin, a mark that just freaked me out. I knew it was a warning, but I had no clue what the hell it meant. Outside, there was this heavy silence. No cars, no neighbors. The music was gone, just the whispers. My house felt like a bubble, completely cut off from the world. Nobody could hear us. We were just alone, stuck there. The burning in my palm became unbearable. It was like red-hot iron, but no smoke, no smell. A sharp pain made me squeeze my eyes shut. When I opened them, I saw a red mark in the center of my palm, an old bell. It wasn't a tattoo, but a living burn pulsing right along with the house's whispers. I knew it wasn't just my body, but all of me that had been invaded. The mark was proof I wasn't my own anymore. Halloween just a trap. My movements kept going, but every step was dictated by some outside force. The mark, like a seal that I was possessed. The bell mark on my hand kept burning, and I couldn't stop moving. The guests' whispers, which had been kinda jumbled, now became one single sound, a strange, deep noise, a really ancient language. With each syllable, the circle tightened, bodies moving together in this really creepy way. Strange symbols seemed to come alive on the floor. An invisible force was controlling us. In the middle of that hypnotizing hum, a voice emerged, like it was coming from everyone all at once, guiding the ritual. I had no control. I just followed. The fear was so intense it paralyzed me, but that voice was just stronger. I wanted to scream, to stop my feet, but they weren't mine. My head yelled no, but my body followed the voice and hum. I was stuck, just watching, unable to do anything. I saw my arms lift, hands joining others, forming symbols, and I couldn't stop. Cold sweat ran down me, a chilling fear it would never end. The house seemed to vibrate with bad energy. I was just a puppet at that force's mercy. Halloween had become my worst nightmare, completely taking me over. I, the host, was trapped, unable to stop the disaster. Suddenly, the voice in my head grew stronger. All bodies turned at once to the circle's center. There, in the main living room, was the unlabeled wine bottle, the one I found. It began to glow with reddish light, pulsing with the rhythm. The symbols we drew seemed to suck light from the bottle, like feeding. The bottle was like that darkness's heart, the symbols its veins. The bell mark on my hand burned even stronger. This was serious, about to happen, from that wine and weird ritual. It was older and worse than Halloween. The voice in my head, a silent scream, took me over. My body tightened, squeezed by an unseen force. The bell mark on my palm burned, sucking my energy. The bottle's light grew stronger, pulsing with strange energy, feeding on us. My feet moved non-stop. Floor symbols vibrated. I felt like I was emptying out. My essence sucked away. My soul seemed pulled out. I was an empty, hollow body, dancing a strange ritual in my own house. Halloween had become a terrifying offering, and I, the main victim. Fear choked me, but I couldn't fight. Just feel life drain. Suddenly, everything stopped. The voice vanished. Whispers disappeared. The bottle's glow faded, leaving the room almost dark. The silence was even scarier. I stood still, gasping, the mark on my palm still burning. I looked around. The room was empty. Nobody. The floor symbols were gone. It was like Halloween never happened, but the pain in my palm confirmed it was real. I felt chillingly alone, not knowing what happened or what was next. Gasping, the silence was heavy and hurt. No sound. There was a smell of wine and sweat, but the room was spotless. I touched the floor, searching for strange symbols, but found nothing. My muscles ached, like after a long run. The shock paralyzed me, my head trying to grasp what happened. It all felt like a lie. My right hand started throbbing. On the palm, a sentinel's mark, red and swollen, like it had been branded. No blister, but it hurt deep inside. A persistent ache that wouldn't go away. I rubbed it, washed it, but it didn't help. It was stuck to my skin, the only proof the night hadn't just been a nightmare. My head was still spinning, but I needed answers. My eyes scanned the room, looking for something that made sense. There it was, fallen on the rug, the unlabeled wine bottle. Empty, the dark glass without that strange glow from before. I picked it up. It was a regular bottle, heavy, lifeless. But I knew it had been the start of everything. My hands shaking, I grabbed my phone, called Liam. Nothing. Voicemail. Tried Chloe. She answered, her voice sleepy. Party? What party, Ellie? Are you okay? Her question hit me like a punch to the gut. Nobody remembered. I was alone, starting to doubt my own mind. The sun hit the living room, showing the old house, everything normal, like nothing had happened. No stains, no sign of the weird symbols. It was a cruel lie. I looked out the window. The neighbors watering their plants. The world went on, but mine had fallen apart. Nobody remembered the party, just me. I rushed down to the cellar, the smell of earth and mold hitting me. I rummaged through everything. Dusty boxes, old bottles, looking for a label, a clue about that unlabeled wine. Nothing, just darkness and cold. The cellar was just a cellar, but it felt like something bad had stayed there, waiting for the right time to come out. That gave me a horrible feeling in my chest. The sentinel's mark on my right palm is still there, a visible thing, a red pulsing scar. I hid it all the time. The panic of someone seeing it was huge. I completely isolated myself. It was the clear proof of the nightmare, etched onto my skin from that horrible night. My house became a prison. Every creak, every shadow scared me. I avoided the cellar and the main living room, the place where everything happened on Halloween. The silence brought whispers in a language I didn't understand. Voices that seemed not to be from here. Unlabeled wine bottles sent chills down my spine. I was trapped in fear and uncertainty, feeling a strange and bad presence. I talked to the friends who were at the Halloween party about the unlabeled wine and the whispers. They looked at me confused. What party, Ellie? Nobody remembered anything. My mark was proof, but to them, it was just an accidental burn. The emptiness in their eyes gave me a pang in my chest. I was alone, isolated with this horrible truth. I mistrusted everyone, even myself. Reality was falling apart. My house turned into a library of strange things, of occultism, folklore, and rituals. I read everything I could get my hands on, books and manuscripts, looking for Halloween symbols or anything about cursed wine. I wanted answers. Every page, every legend, sank me deeper into uncertainty and paranoia. The world, full of mysteries, gave me no clear answers. I was even more lost. Any talk of parties gave me the creeps. The sound of a bell sent a chill down my spine instantly. I avoided crowded places and social events. Losing control on Halloween turned into a constant panic, leaving me always on edge, exhausted, and alone. The mark on my hand became part of me, a horrible reminder. There was no going back, no logical explanation. The world wasn't safe anymore. It felt like a place of terrible things. I felt like my essence had been invaded and hurt, and that feeling wouldn't go away. Uncertainty, like a veil, was my new and unwelcome companion. I'm Ethan Miller, in my 20s, and I lived with my grandparents in their old house in Willow Creek Estates, Oak Haven. It was a sweet deal, super calm, always the same. Days started with fresh coffee and WNYT Channel 13 news. I worked remotely, a data analyst, window open, listening to neighborhood sounds, birds chirping, kids playing. Afternoons, I'd read sci-fi books, walk Oak Haven's historic streets, or help my grandmother Eleanor in her herb and flower garden. Evenings were homemade dinners, then old movies on TCM, or a good book on the porch. Life was predictable. No big surprises. Exactly how I liked it. It felt like the safest place in the world. Because I liked that piece so much and really didn't go for drama, Halloween was just a fun celebration to me. An excuse to decorate the house and mess around. All those old Oak Haven legends, the ones people whispered about not disturbing the soil or invoking the sleepers on new moon nights, especially during Samhain, I thought they were pure nonsense. Just superstition for folks who believed that stuff. I grabbed the fake styrofoam tombstones I bought and stuck them in the garden without really thinking about it, you know? They were just props, like jack-o'-lanterns and artificial spiderwebs. Nothing serious or with any hidden meaning. I never imagined something so simple would lead to anything like this. Totally ignoring those ancient warnings I figured were just fairy tales. The sun was out, and I just wanted to finish decorating quickly so I could get back to my online games. I just stuck the tombstones in, some crooked, some kind of out of place, not caring about symmetry or perfection at all. The whole point was for it to look like a messy, fake cemetery. A visual joke, a party vibe for the friends who were coming over. The town's legends, which warned about respecting certain nights and not going out on a new moon, didn't even cross my mind back then. It was all just fun, a setup for the party that was coming. Lighthearted, nothing serious. Not even a tiny bit of worry that something bad might happen. Halloween night arrived, and I was just chillin', at peace. Outside, the sky was pitch black, no moon at all. But I ignored Oak Haven's old stories about the dark of the moon and its dangers. The house was quiet, just the TV on low in the living room. In my bedroom, lying on the bed, I was on my phone, texting friends, waiting for the party. Outside, the garden's fake styrofoam tombstones looked like silly, harmless decorations. I felt nothing strange, just my usual peace, oblivious to what the new moon's darkness, which I'd scoffed at, could bring. The air felt colder, a sign I missed, fine with whatever the night held. I was almost asleep, my phone already put aside. It was completely silent. Then, out of nowhere, a sound. A really light dragging, coming from outside, from the garden, like something heavy being pulled on the dirt, you know? It wasn't the wind or an animal. It was different. A sound that shouldn't have been there. My heart jumped. I thought it was a cat, but it was too heavy. A slow drag, scratching the ground. All that calm just vanished right then. I tried to tell myself it was just the heavy rain, or a branch falling, but it didn't stop. The dragging kept going, stronger, like something heavy was being pulled with force. A kind of wet, heavy sound. My head was spinning, trying to find a normal explanation. It's just in my head, I thought. It's the sleep. Maybe I shouldn't have gone out on the new moon, like my grandma Eleanor always said. But the fear was already there, squeezing. And the sound didn't go away. It kept insisting. It sounded like someone was digging in my garden. I was frozen in bed, the digging sound still in my head. I couldn't ignore it anymore. I dragged myself to the window, my heart pounding. The curtain was only slightly open. I looked outside, into the dark garden. The rain was hitting hard, but way back there, near the styrofoam tombstones, I swear I saw a shadow. It wasn't a normal shadow. It was something denser, moving slowly, a feeling that someone was there, where no one should be. The fear turned into a knot in my throat. It wasn't just a sound. It was real. Something was happening out there. My eyes were glued to the styrofoam tombstones. The rain was falling, and the shadow seemed to blend with the dark. But it wasn't the shadow that paralyzed me. It was what happened to the tombstones. I swear I saw it. The letters I'd painted myself, the funny fake names, they started to distort. They disappeared. And in their place, others appeared. Old names, you know? Like Evelyn Maeve, Thomas Sterling, 1892. Dates. As if they were real. And the dirt around them? It wasn't just the styrofoam anymore. It looked disturbed. Damp. Like something had been unearthed or buried there. The garden wasn't my garden anymore. It was something else. Like a hole in time. The fear turned into crazy panic. I couldn't blink. That disturbed dark earth wasn't supposed to be there. Where there had been grass and styrofoam, now there was a hole. Fresh mud. It looked like someone had just come out of it or gone in. My stomach churned. This wasn't a Halloween joke anymore. It was real. Those names, that dirt, it was like my garden had turned into a real cemetery. I couldn't breathe. I had messed with something serious, broken the new moon rule. The uncertainty of what was under that dirt ate at me. It was a shock. Panic made me step back from the window, nearly tripping. I wanted to bolt, but this weird curiosity just yanked me back. This can't be happening, I thought, my mind racing to find some logic, a trick of the light. It was just Halloween. I forced myself back to the window, eyes fixed outside, my forehead pressed against the cold glass. The rain was still coming down, thin and steady. The shadow, it was clear now, no denying it. I saw a pale, almost see-through hand, bony, with long, yellowish nails, reaching out of the freshly disturbed earth near one of the foam tombstones. It was holding something, a small bone or a dirty piece of cloth, and with this terrifying slowness, it put it back in the hole. It was a flash that got burned into my brain. This wasn't a trick, not imagination. It was real, so real. That thing was out there, messing with my garden, the place I thought was safe. My heart hammered against my ribs, my breath caught in my throat. I tried to think straight, but this was just too dark. My garden, invaded, would never be the same, and I felt it deep in my gut, a cold, sinking feeling. The hand disappearing back into the dark earth made me jump back, tripping again, almost falling. The digging sounds, which had been coming from just one spot, now spread out, like they were coming from all over the garden, a creepy chorus. A heavy dragging of damp earth, a scraping of nails on stones, a murmur, almost silent. That sounded like it was calling my name. The house felt like it was falling apart, the walls too thin to protect me. I grabbed my phone, hands shaking too much to unlock the screen, fingers slick with cold sweat. Call my grandparents? The police? Ghost digging in my yard. Who would believe that? I tried to call a friend, but the screen just showed no service. I tried again, desperate, but the message wouldn't go through. A cruel reminder. I was alone, completely cut off from the world, isolated in a nightmare that was turning real. The loneliness crushed me, heavier than the fear, colder than the rain outside. I had invited it without even knowing, by breaking that old new moon tradition. Suddenly, the noise stopped. The scraping, the dragging, the whispers, everything just vanished. A heavy, thick silence sucked the air out of the room. Worse than any noise, slowly choking me. The air suddenly turned ice cold, a bone-deep chill that made my hair stand on end. My eyes, glued to the darkness outside, slowly moved to the window, like something was pulling them. There it was, the shadow. Not far away anymore, but right there, in front of me, on the other side of the glass, just inches away. A dark, shapeless mass, so dense it seemed to suck up the faint streetlights and distant house lights. I couldn't see eyes, but I felt it, watching. A cold, calculating stare piercing right through me. A strong smell of damp earth and mold, like a freshly opened grave, seeped into the room through the window cracks, making me nauseous and making it hard to breathe. The glass felt thin, fragile, like it couldn't hold back the presence growing outside. I felt an invisible pressure, like the shadow was testing the barrier, or maybe just my own mind. It was a total invasion of the garden, of my head, of my most private and safe space. I was trapped, cornered, and it knew. I felt it in every part of me. The shadow moved, slow, with the calm of something that knows what it's doing, that has power. A cold shiver shot up my spine, freezing me. I saw a translucent hand, almost invisible, with long, thin fingers, rising up, pointing straight at the window, at me. Right then, one of the styrofoam gravestones, the one closest to the house, floated up, defying gravity, like it was made of smoke. With a dull, dry thud, it hit the glass, a sound that echoed in my chest and head. It didn't break, but the impact was heavy, a warning I couldn't ignore. The name on it changed right in front of me, the letters twisting. Evelyn Maeve, 1892, like it had been carved in that instant with old rusted script. But the worst part, what made me lose my breath and my mind, was the dirt. A thin layer of damp, dark, death-smelling earth slid down the windowsill, landing on my clean carpet, right at my feet. There was no wind, no way that could happen naturally. It was a clear message, a direct and undeniable invasion of my personal space. The barrier between worlds, between my house and what was out there, was completely gone. The shadow took a step back, like it was done. I could only stare at the dirt on my floor, in total shock, my mind blank, unable to understand what was happening. I couldn't move. My body just shut down, heavy and still. My voice caught in a silent, desperate scream. My heart pounded so hard, I felt it in every bone, a frantic rhythm of pure terror. The wet earth on my rug, the gravestone of Elias Cromwell with that name etched into it, the shadow fading outside, slowly disappearing into the dark. Everything became a blur, a twisted, distorted image, a waking nightmare. It wasn't just the garden that was invaded. It was me, my own head, my peace. That thing had gotten into my mind, messing up everything I knew as safe and real. I was a puppet, just watching, unable to do anything in my own nightmare. The uncertainty of what was coming next crushed me with an unbearable weight that kept me frozen. I could only stare, eyes wide and fixed on the dirty floor, as fear truly settled in, leaving a mark that would never leave my soul, an eternal scar. My garden, my house, my sanctuary would never be mine again, and I knew with a cold, terrifying certainty that the night was only just beginning, and the worst was yet to come. The shadow dissolved into the air like smoke and was gone. A cold shiver, the last and strongest, left me trembling. The silence was worse than any noise, a crushing weight. The garden, wet and dark from the rain, wasn't just a garden anymore. Paralyzed, I felt the air caught in my throat, my eyes fixed on the emptiness outside. A heavy void remained, the mark of that thing, leaving me with immense fear and profound loneliness. I was there, alone, uncertainty gnawing at me. My legs just gave out. I slid down the wall, falling onto the cold floor. My whole body wouldn't stop shaking, a shock. The adrenaline was gone, leaving me with just an absurd exhaustion. Cold sweat ran down me, mixed with tears I didn't even notice. Every muscle ached, and that smell of wet earth, of mold, wouldn't leave the air, reminding me of everything. With an effort that hurt my soul, I dragged myself back to the window. My desperate eyes swept over the garden. The styrofoam gravestones were there, looking normal again. But the earth, oh the earth. It was definitely disturbed in several spots, and a handful of fresh mud on my rug was undeniable proof. It wasn't a dream. It wasn't a delusion. It was real. That invasion had happened. A faint crow of a rooster in the distance broke the heavy silence. The darkness outside started to fade, leaving the horizon gray. With the arrival of light, that tight feeling lessened, as if night carried the bad thing away. The immediate threat receded. I was still shaking, but the worst panic eased. The daylight was a breath of air, but the fear and uncertainty remained. I dragged myself away from the window. Every bone ached. The house, which used to be my safe haven, now felt like an empty, violated shell. That thing was gone, but I didn't feel relief, just a cold emptiness. I knew the night was over, but something inside me had shattered for good. The garden would never just be the garden again. And me? I'd never be the same. The garden, under a useless sun, showed the styrofoam gravestones and the disturbed earth, the proof. The smell of damp earth and mold clung to my nose. The fear lingered, a buzzing in my head, an uncertain weight that gnawed at me. The rain became a trigger. Every drop brought digging sounds that paralyzed me. Sleeping only happened with the lights on. The dark had turned into a monster. The garden, once mine, was a place I avoided looking at. Shadows and creaks from the house made me jump. The new moon, once ignored, became terror. A reminder of the old tradition I'd broken. My life, an endless checking. I wanted to cover the earth, pretend nothing had happened, but the fear was bigger. What if disturbing it made what already seemed like a portal worse? The garden had turned into a personal cemetery, a mistake that would never leave. I put up a new fence, not to protect, but to isolate a wound that still pulsed. Nobody believed me. Grandma Eleanor talked about tiredness. My friends laughed, thinking it was a Halloween prank, a bad joke. How could I explain that the garden had turned into a tomb? That the disturbed earth wasn't a joke? Loneliness swallowed me. I was the only one to see the phantom, to feel the invasion. The shock isolated me, turning my house into a private hell. What was that? Echoed unanswered, an emptiness eating me from the inside. The barrier between worlds, which I thought was solid, had dissolved. I live waiting for the phantom to return. Halloween and the new moon freeze me with fear. That night opened a door that won't close anymore. The Ethan who thought it was all a joke died in the garden, not in body, but in soul. Now I'm someone else. Someone who saw what shouldn't be seen and can't forget. Joking around with death turned into a heavy respect. I understood that some things aren't for messing with, that the past has a force we don't understand. My peace and my innocence became scars that will never disappear.